All right, I'd like to call this West Lynch Goal Setting Meeting to order on Wednesday, March 20th at 9:04 a.m. And I'll start with, I guess, do we even need disclosure of pecuniary interests on? Yeah, okay, I'll call for any disclosure of pecuniary interests. Seeing none? All right. Where do we go here? Yes, yeah,
Okay, hi everyone.
good morning.
So you have before you just the report with respect to the 2018 to 22 goals and objectives for council. I also attached the report that you would have received in December. And the first part of this report just outlines the changes that have been made since December. So you'll see that some items were completed or some additional information was included on the charts. So that information isn't included in the report. And then also in the report, I thought it might be a good idea just to kind of give you a summary of year over year, so you kind of see the different goals and objectives, whether they be policies or bylaws or audit recommendations that are scheduled for this term of council at this given point in time. And of course, the purpose of this meeting is to have council review them, prioritize them, add, delete. I'm going to stress, if you add, please delete, for reasons of the fact that as the list even exists at this given point in time, and it's rather ambitious. I stress that it's very ambitious given our resources. And I should say, the one thing I do just want to let council know that I know we've had discussions as, you know, when we have vacancies occur. So when we do have vacancies occur in the organization, and we know that we're going to have one coming up with the Director of Public Works, it does, for at least a period of time, put an additional onus on certain staff, depending on the roles and responsibilities that we're having to cover off at the time, but also just the recruitment process in itself. And if it's needed, training takes away from getting to these particular goals and objectives. So I do stress, if you're going to add, please delete. But again, it's council's prerogative, but certainly we're here to provide you any information we can with respect to the specific projects. You might find, like I know I can point to one particular project, if I can remember off the top of my head, that I still don't even recall what it meant. I think it was planning evaluation. It was put on the original 2010 to 2014, and it's kind of sat there. And I'm not sure what was intended by it at the time. I honestly can't recall, but you know, maybe there's some discussion with this council on whether they see that that's something that's necessary, or if it's not, then we can remove it from the list. I have had a few members of council also inquire, well, Karen, a lot of these things are complete. When do they come off the list? I would suggest after this meeting.
Okay.
After this meeting, then I would clean up the list, take all the completed items off, and then you would have your new 2018 to 2022 council term listing, if that makes sense to everyone. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor, and I would suggest we probably just go table by table. It's probably the easiest. But
So which table do you want to start with? Like, I'm here on the report ADM 2019-2012. Are these the ones that, on page 9? Are these the ones that are going to, because in the one schedule, it lists a ton of bylaws, and I see that they were going to be potentially reviewed. Are these the ones that we're looking at, or all of the ones in the schedule?
So right now, like, because council may want to bring something forward and move something back, that summary that you're looking at, Mayor Sealy, is just currently as the list is right now. Like, I've carried forward the summary, so you may want to go and work from that table.
Which table is that one?
That's just the Schedule A, and then we can just go line by line, and if council wants to move something up or take something off, then we can go that way. So that would just be.
Maybe I should go this way. Okay.
Does anyone have a page number yet?
Oh, well,
Is it
it's
page
page
11?
7 of our package. This is summary year by year, 2018 to 22. Is that what you're referring to?
No,
Oh, the
because
detailed ones.
The detailed one.
You're going
because you may
Schedule
wanna
A,
put
right?
something-
Schedule A?
Isn't
Would
that
it,
page
would it
11?
maybe make
11.
more sense to go through the summary year over year to
You can do that first.
kind of
It's
see if
entirely
we
up
want to
to
move
you.
things around?
If you feel that's going to be more productive, I'm okay with it. What page, where's the summary now? I just went. to
Just where
table.
you were.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know what the best.
Well, we
way
can
to
do
it.
So again, the summary is what the priorities of staff are going to be, correct?
The summary is what is currently set as the priorities.
By previous
So I think I will
Yes.
open it up to council, if everybody's read the summary. If there's anything that they wanted added that's in the schedules, then we should maybe start there. If, I think that'll be productive. Let me get back to where we were.
Why, is there, perhaps to address the CAO's concern, why don't, if we discuss what can be removed first?
Well, there could be
Okay.
you mean completed items, or you mean ones that are incomplete and removed?
Or an example was given of something that was there from 2010 that lingers on. Because I had a
Well,
couple that,
Let's see.
Sure.
Does anybody have any suggestions they want to add first, if there isn't many on the
I do.
floor? Okay. All right, so let's start there, I think, Matthew, and
Okay.
if it isn't a lot to add, then I don't want to take time to remove. Anyways, let's just start there. All right, Counselor Goida, you say you have something you.
Okay, so I guess probably I should have been prepared to decide which things I would suggest deleting by adding things. But I'll just put it out there, what I was thinking we should add, and maybe then we can figure out if we're going to add it and if something should be deleted in its place. But when I read through this list, what I was trying to think of is when I was campaigning, what were the things that came up most often in terms of concerns from the residents. And the biggest things that always came up were the roads, which don't necessarily apply to what we're talking about today, the internet and gas. And the internet and gas are two things that are not maybe in our direct control, but in terms of the connectivity and the internet, we don't have it anywhere on any of our goals and objectives. And I can't necessarily say what that goal exactly should be, but we do have on here just like a general thing that says support of TAPMO initiatives. And I'm wondering if it makes sense to put something on here that supports whether it's the SWIFT, I know that the SWIFT program, whether it's becoming a member or a partner of something like that, but just to have some kind of a voice to help with the connectivity issue in the township. I know for myself, even preparing for this meeting, I couldn't get internet at home. It was frustrating as anything. That was one of the things. And the other thing that I just wanted to bring up, and I have no idea how it fits into any of this, but it would be, I just wanted to, I guess, bring up the thought of how and if we could add water fountains to our public facilities, being like the PCC and the ORC. I don't even know if that's a possibility. It's just something that I was thinking about. And that's it.
Okay, I got a quick question for the CEO. Something along the lines of the water fountains, would that have to be set as a goals and objectives, or is that something that we could just be set as, during a council meeting? It could be a motion or, maybe even a service level review kind of thing?
Yeah, I would suggest that it's something that you could put forward as a notice of motion, and then council could I would suggest that it be initially introduced as part of the budget process, where
Okay.
staff would, you could bring the notice of motion in advance of the budget process, but it would direct staff to report back at budget time what the costs would be, and both from a capital and an operating perspective.
Okay.
And then-
I just don't want to bring up something that's going to take more time and more resources of staff
Everything's
when
gonna
we've
take more
got,
time,
I know.
But I think for your avenue, if that's something you feel that the community needs, and I would support that as well. But then you get into potable water and you got to test.
I know it's a bigger can of worms than
It's
just,
more appropriate during the budget
okay.
process.
Yep, that's fine.
And then I'll comment on the internet. The county's taking the lead on the SWIFT. Now, I mean, in my opinion, supporting it is a wonderful thing and a great idea. I don't know how involved we are, and especially if you've been watching the news, the federal government's going to release their budget if it's not already out, and they're pushing broadband. the-
2030.
So, and then the province is also supportive of it, so it's going in the right direction. I know it's never going to be fast enough for people, but I'm open to suggestions for that, and I don't know if any other councilors have any comments on the broadband, if.
Yeah, I guess if you're finished with Councilor Goya, I can.
Councilor Spillis?
Okay, my priorities are obviously paving roads, but I don't see a problem adding as a goal because we already have a study underway, and you mentioned to us that you're bringing in some suppliers to talk to us as well.
I'll maybe give you an update on that.
Okay, fine. Like, to me, that's already started. It's not as if it's something that's a new initiative. We've already started on it, and it's a matter of just tracking it the way I see it. So that's an easy one here. You're not creating any extra work. You've got it already underway, so it's just a matter of tracking it on this list. So like, it's a goal for us to eventually move towards paving of unpaved roads.
So I just want to pause. We had a discussion about the, direction to staff and that we were going to start passing motions. Did you want something similar for the goal setting here as well, just for accountability?
I think right now, I guess, for this purpose, like this will come back and you're going to have to accept it as a whole. But for right now, I can take it, you don't need to get a mover and seconder for everyone. But I appreciate you asking. But for this purpose, we'll summarize it and then council can vote on it as a whole. And if there's something that needs to be voted on separately when it comes back, then that's fine.
So I agree with your comments.
Okay, the next thing is gas.
Can I just ask for
Sorry.
clarification? Because I'm noting paving of roads, but is it worded in such a way that your council will consider?
Yes,
the paving?
absolutely. Consider the viability of paving gravel roads.
Can I offer a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Surface treating, because that leaves the
Yeah,
scope
sure,
open,
surface,
right?
yeah, that's fine, that's good,
You know,
that's
when,
good
people
amendment.
just
It
turn off.
leaves it wide open for, yeah. Okay. On to gas, I agree with Councilor Goyda. Like, to me, that's an issue, and it's something that we should address somehow. Now, I noticed someplace in here you've got site
Alteration?
slight alteration, you're suggesting having a separate workshop on it. And I think I'd like to suggest we do the same thing with the gas, have a separate workshop on it. Like, to me, that's important to figure out how to approach it. There's a couple ways to approach it. We can set up a committee of council, or we can go out and bring somebody in to lead the charge for us. But things like, you got to talk to gas company, you got to see the economics of it for individuals, so people all have to understand, we're going down this road, this is the uptake we need, this is the number of people have to sign up, and this is going to be the cost for you. If we're going this, we should methodically address all these issues, so it's not going in blind and somebody saying, well, I don't want it because you didn't give them enough information.
Yeah.
So I would suggest we add it here, and my thought process was to go one step further. I know that this afternoon we're having another council meeting. One of the items in there is the surplus. I'm willing to suggest that we allot some of that surplus to this gas study at that time. So that's my thought process on that. And then on the internet, I hear what you're saying, SWIFT is suggesting something, and I hear what you're saying, the feds are suggesting something. The feds said 2030, well, you go back 10 years ago, they said 2021, and then 2022, and now it's back again. So talk to Council Boomer, and Council Boomer's working on something on the side. He cited a municipality, what's it called, Mississippi Mills, that basically the entire community got together and put through an internet type of thing. Now, I don't know if it's scalable for us or not, but something like that, looking into it on our own. My concern is with SWIFT, it's been in the works for such a long time. They're only getting a few million here and there type of thing. And for broadband, for the majority of Wellington North would be probably ExploreNet towers. They got flat land there, flat terrain, and it'll work for them. Whereas here, we're hilly. And you can get, you're on a hill, you get the service. You're not on a hill, you're in a dale, you don't get the service. So it varies.
Well, the towers they work if they're within so many kilometers of the fiber optic wire in the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like 3
So
or 4
to me,
K.
it's something I'd like to suggest we put on here also maybe have a workshop on it. I would suggest we don't make it an urgent priority, maybe 2021, because as you said, there's all these other irons in the fire, but something that's further out there that recognizes that there's work being done by others in that respect.
Okay. Maybe we can deal with the roads. I think that's a pretty big priority for all the council. So I'll let Councillor Roth and Councillor Balmer maybe discuss the roads being added to the goals and objective, the surface treaty, if you have any comments on them, or if you're supportive of it. Councillor Roth?
Well, I'm supportive of it. How to implement it is another story. I don't know. We're at kind of a crossroads here with losing our Director of Public Works, and I talked to the Director of Public Works yesterday, and apparently the City of Guelph is going to pave Maltby Road and not tar and chip it, pave it. And GM Blue Plan is doing all the work on it. So that could give us a pretty good barometer what it would cost per kilometer to pave a gravel road properly, because that's my understanding. I haven't been down it, but Maltby Road is pretty rough.
Did he mention if it's a border road where we're responsible for half the cost, or if the city?
No,
will?
I don't, we're not
We're not
responsible for
That one.
anything. But we could find out the cost of it through GM Blue Plan. Excuse me. And then having that information could help. I had suggested before that I think we should be paving one road every year, whether that's feasible or not, I don't know. The other thing the Director of Public Works mentioned was that they tarred and chipped Crowley, and he said it's deteriorating at a very fast rate. So that's also another barometer that we can use for, and I don't know if that falls under surface treating or what, but, so I think definitely we have to have a real concerted effort to look after our roads. But after, and the mayor could attest to this, after you got the roads committee meeting at the county, like, everybody's in bad shape for roads, and they don't have gravel roads, and they're still in bad shape, and apparently our paved roads are deteriorating quicker after a winter like this too, so it's just a matter of, if we're going to pave gravel roads, I think first we have to get the information that we have asked for through Councillor Sapoulis' suggestion, and then take a more informed look at it.
So that would be a good asset to have on this goals and objectives, because then it puts
Well,
in our priorities, right? And then we can make.
Yeah,
those
I
decisions.
think so, but I don't know, like, I don't know if it has to be on the goal-setting thing or not. I mean, I think all of council knows we have to do something.
well-
And putting it on this list, I don't know what that's going to change, but if,
Well, maybe Madame CEO could comment on that, because that's where I'm struggling, is we have initiatives that we're dealing with, that, and Councillor Sapoulis mentioned them, you know, we're already going down the road, no pun intended, with them. Do they need to be on the goals and objectives? Is this just to keep the focus of staff on it? Or, you know, as long as council has this initiative to take on these items?
Well, at the time this was put in place, it was council coming out of, the last term, it was council coming out of the election, and these were the things that they heard and thought were important to them. So, I mean, whether you're dealing with it through a budget or through this process, I think that there's a lot of duplication in those efforts, mind you, but there's no harm in putting it on. If council wants to express that it's important to you to look at it this term of council.
I think it's important, like these goals and objectives, people are going to see it, our residents are going to see it, and I want to convey the message, we heard you, and it's on our radar.
Yeah. I agree. So Councillor Bulmer?
Thank you. Yeah, I share some of Councillor Roth's concerns, and I agree with CAO. There's no harm in putting it here. But we have a study going on now regarding the roads, and we have the asset management plan with service levels that are intended to support and drive when we pave a road. So if I were going to put a goal and objective in here, I might suggest that it be worded in such a way that since the service levels haven't been established yet for our asset management plan, they haven't been finalized yet, then our goal, it would appear that council's goal here is to establish service levels for gravel roads that will see them hard surfaced or surface treated within a certain period of time. So that what I'm hearing is we want to set a service level that sees the elimination of gravel roads in our asset management plan. That's what I'm hearing as the goal or objective here regarding gravel roads, is you want to see the elimination of them. And the way we do that is by setting that service standard in our asset management plan.
Councillor Smith?
I would agree with more with what along lines you're saying, is the feasibility of surface treating these roads, whether it's pavement, Councillor Roth suggests, or it's some other means of doing it that's more appropriate to the usage of the road.
I think it should just be listed on this goals setting objectives, is that, you know, that we're looking at surface treating. And then once the asset management plan is in place, that'll set the, well, hopefully it'll set the policy for when a gravel road is, you know, subject to surface treatment. And so I think this can be somewhat generalized. It's just that, just like Councillor Spoulos mentioned, that it shows the public that it's our focus. And then once we get these other plans and policies in place, it'll really help narrow our focus and dictate which roads. And you have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, as Councillor Roth mentioned, paving one road per year, our asset management costs are going to go up exponentially.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So then we're going to have funding issues. So, I mean, I see a lot of aspects that are going to affect whether we pave a road a year or not. And then the maintenance of the other ones, as Councillor Roth saw in the county roads committee meeting. The county, who we feel is fairly well-funded, I think that's a consensus here. Councillor Roth, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it around 40% of their roads were in good shape and the rest were, you know, in
Yeah, I
need
think
or?
for them to catch up, it would be about $200 million.
Right, so just be cognizant of it. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I think we should just have it generalized that, look at the roads for surface treatment and then let the asset management plan dictate the policy and.
Yeah, that's.
Councillor Roth?
Yeah, I think if we're going to put it in here for our goals and objectives, and I think we should do it similar to what we did with Tapmo and just support a program to eliminate gravel roads and just put it through, right through to 2022. I don't think staff has to spend a whole lot of time on this.
No.
I don't know what
already
you
being
can
done.
do. So, and then, you know, we can, I think everybody here is in agreement that we have to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just added
But to
that.
put down in here that it's going to be done by 2021.
No, you can't.
So I'm going to put over the term of council, just consider feasibility of surface treating of roads,
Sounds good.
Gravel roads,
of gravel roads.
matters. Okay, and then we'll quickly discuss, add the broadband internet as a goals and objectives.
Well, we haven't had, Councillor Roth and I haven't had a chance to discuss that.
That's what I was gonna, that's where we're all gonna discuss it right now. So I'll start with maybe Councillor Bulmer, and then I'll just go this way. For the broadband internet.
Oh, yeah, because my name was mentioned there, and also as mentioned, I was approached by some residents who wanted to do something about this, either sort of parallel to SWIFT, just before SWIFT Plus was announced. So I have had some discussions with the county since SWIFT and SWIFT Plus are there in their bailiwicks. And what I'm trying to do is arrange a meeting with the Economic Development, Chair of the Economic Development, their IT folks, Councillor Spoulos and myself, and the resident who brought the idea, the project that Mississippi Mills took on, where they partnered with a provider. The reason I'm trying to work with the county is because they actually have money for these kind of projects outside of SWIFT, possibly. Not for sure, but since this is part of their economic development, it is possible that they could support such an initiative. So prior to us setting anything up, I thought it'd be important to find out from them what support we would have. And I'm hoping that Councillor Sapoulos would be interested in taking the lead on this, because he's indicated a very strong interest in having a wider availability of broadband here. So once I get that meeting set up, we'll know more. So if we could have it just worded like the TAPMO one, where council supports members of council working towards this in whatever capacity that is, that'd be great. Sort of acknowledging that councillors may be working to bring a side project in to council in the future. Does that make sense?
It does to me. Oh, Councilor Sapoulos?
It makes sense. I just don't want to do this in isolation of staff, like.
It won't be.
Like you're dealing with the county, and I think our staff should be involved as well.
It will. The idea at this point is just to make, if they're interested, then they can be the thing. But it could be a county initiative all the way through, where members of this council end up sitting on it, helping with a county initiative, since it's their lead right now, and that's where the funding flows. We don't have a funding line for internet.
No.
I look at similar to my position on Accessibility Advisory Committee, or any of us that might sit on the Green Legacy Committee, or where these are county-led initiatives, and maybe we have a township rep. So,
Yeah, I think the advantage of having it, I would agree that it be similar to the TAPMO to support initiatives in terms of broadband, but I think the advantage of having it on here is that I would assume that every year we're going to look at this again, and you can track, at least that way you can see sort of like what's happened, where we've been and where we're going in terms of each initiative. And so I do definitely think it needs to be on here.
Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, we put it on here again. I think it's an ongoing thing right through to 2022, because my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, that SWIFT had a bit of a setback because the CRTC kind of said everything's okay, but I think that's been partially resolved. But I think one of the first steps is that we should have an update from the county saying where it is with SWIFT now. You know, where exactly are they, and what are their thoughts of when something's going to be in place? Because I think, if I remember correctly, the county has put $1 million into this. That's a lot of money to spend for no reason. So I think for us to do something on our own is a little redundant.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we're in a bit of a unique situation. We have all the end users, but it's federally controlled because it's communications. So where the funding comes from, we're the small fish in the pond, but it's similar to collecting the taxes. We collect the taxes for everybody. We bear the brunt of, the complaints. And I agree. I think it should go on here so that it's on our radar. And as for the SWIFT update, they've been very guarded with that information, Councillor Roth. And I think something's going to be coming out soon.
Yes.
They're going to have some releases. And I guess if council is comfortable with it, we'll just do it similar to TAPMO. It's on our radar. And then as opportunities present themselves, we can take advantage of them or throw our weight or support behind certain initiatives. Madam CEO, does that?
I just worded it, if I may, just support initiatives to increase internet access, and that's noted from 2019 to 2022, and that we should probably request an update from the county just on where things are at with SWIFT.
Okay, and I'd like to follow up on Council Bloomer's initiatives. In other words, see if we can do something a la Mississippi Mills type of thing.
I'll send you that information, John. I'm sorry I haven't done that yet.
Because I hear what you're saying, but I think Wellington has the most population up north, and that's where they're going to throw their efforts. They're going to ignore us here. or put us at the bottom of the list, I should say. I shouldn't say ignore, but they would put us at the bottom list. Most of the population's up there. And that's what I would throw my money at if I was Wellington County. Say, well,
I can't speak of that. I don't know yet, but I'll maybe do some investigating and see, and especially when the SWIFT report comes out.
Well, I would just suggest that, like, I mean, when you're having your discussions with the county, like, I think, I understand that the population is further to the north, but I think that there should be some recognition to the business industry.
absolutely.
Right, made and emphasized with the county, because that pays a lot of county and township tax dollars, and maybe,
That's a very good point, Madam.
Yeah, well, Puslinch contributes 30-something% of the county taxes per annually, so it's a big chunk of the pie.
We're not 30% of the population.
Okay, so those are the two. Councillor Roth, do you have any, sorry, I'll back up.
Yeah, I had the gas still.
Oh, the gas.
Yeah, okay, Councillor.
So
Boyer.
we agree on the internet, and we will now start discussing the gas expansion. And do you have any additional information on?
No, just the two that I mentioned at the candidates meeting. I don't have any more than that. I've not pursued any more than that.
I know it's a valuable resource I'm on gas at my house, and it's very affordable, and it's an excellent resource to have. So it'd be excellent if more people in the community could have it. I don't know what that entails. Do you have any comments on that, Councillor Roth? I'll go this way.
Well, yeah, I'm a little, again, I don't know how much control we have over bringing gas into the township because of our sparse population in the rural areas. We have it, I think, in all the urban areas, and it's along 34, as Councillor Sapoulis mentioned earlier. I think, I don't know, I'm really leery of spending money on this because I don't know what result we'll get in the end. I think we should be writing letters to Consumers Gas or whoever the people are that, you know, we want natural gas, we want them to look into it. But as far as spending money or hiring someone to do something on this, I'm not so sure it would have a payback. Because, you know, we may want this, but I don't think we can force them to put in a gas line. And the other thing is, in my particular case, I've got everything on propane. So if natural gas came down our road and we needed everyone on that road to sign up to make it feasible, I've got a lot of questions because I want to know whether my furnace can even be converted, whether my dryer, my water heater, my fireplace, my barbecues, some of it can be, I know for sure. But that's a big issue in the rural area, and I'm on propane because it's cheaper than hydro. So we may think everybody wants gas, but until it's feasible for the gas companies, they're not going to do it anyway. In the rural areas. So I'm just a little concerned about spending money on an outside firm to do a study on this to explain to the people what it'll cost them when it may not be feasible to get it anyway. So I don't know, I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse or what we're doing here, but I'm not in favor of this one.
Councillor Bulmer?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Sapoulis that we need to do something to help people, and perhaps what we need to do is maybe we can generate some sort of a mailer that goes out that helps people understand that if they're interested, where they can go to sign up to help demonstrate to the gas companies that there's a demand. But beyond that, there was a presentation at the conference this year at Roma. One of the energy sector analysts was explaining some of the challenges that smaller municipalities can get into when they take these on and the risks associated with, especially as Councillor Roth pointed out, all of the metrics that come into play for those who have to switch. Unlike sewer and water, you can't force them to connect afterwards. And if they don't think they're going to be in the house, if the payback is 12 to 15 years, and they figure they're going to be gone in 5 from the house, a lot of people end up not switching it. At the same time, Kincardine said they've showed it for them. They've done analysis twice. They've had paid for 2 studies showing how short the payback would be for their residents, and they still haven't got anybody to bring gas into town. So they've tried, and although the paybacks are, they have the numbers of people that you'd think would attract the gas, they still don't have the gas. So I'm hesitant, because we've got so much of it already. I kind of agree with Councillor Roth that it is where it's viable and it's not where it's not viable. And I'm not sure I'd want to be investing in us taking on, paying the gas company to put it in, and then waiting for people to decide to connect or not. Because they have to pay the cost to bring it up to their house from the road and the cost of conversions. So I think we need to do something to help the gas companies know what the potential demand is, but I'm not sure I'd want to invest anything beyond that.
Councillor, go ahead.
I just wanted to inquire, Madam CEO, maybe you could answer this question. Am I wrong that there's been some sort of kind of research done on this already in the past? And what the result of that
Well,
was?
what had happened is there was the potential for, there was funding available to the gas companies to put in. And as part of that opportunity, this township put in to have the Ellis Road area considered,
Yep.
and it wasn't accepted. It wasn't successful.
And was that because the gas company did, like, it wasn't successful
the most
and
viable option for the gas company.
so they elected not to go forward?
The costs were high.
But it was funding was available, and
Yeah.
they said, okay, these are the priority people, and sort
Yeah.
of put us at the bottom.
Yeah.
And we offered to waive as part of the process, we waived the taxes on the pipeline.
Road allowance, yeah.
And the road allowance for X period of time.
Yeah.
To help.
So even with giving the gas companies incentives and possible funding, they still said no?
For what we put forward, yes, because they had competing interests all across the province, right? So
Right.
they're naturally going to
Right.
go where they're going to get
The most money,
the most money, and, yeah, the best return.
the best return, yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn. I mean, I hear the people that they want it. But I agree with Councillor Roth. I mean, even if we spend money and get a consultant to do a report for us, it's not to say that it's going to mean anything if no gas company is going to agree to sign on. And then even if they do, there's no guarantee that the residents are going to bear the cost of signing on. And I just, I'm torn because I don't exactly know
Well, maybe
how that can be a goal and objective for us when it's so far out of our control, it seems like.
I still would like us to consider at least having the gas company come in and talk about all these things. Like, that, to me, is at least we've done the first step, and then we can make a decision, go, no go. They tell us that you have to have an uptake of 10 houses per kilometer type of thing to make it viable. Well, okay.
let's find a road with 10 houses per kilometer. And make
Yeah,
business plan
and
for it.
there's, Council Bowman mentioned, there is a process where you can sign up type of thing and say, tell me what it costs to bring gas to my house, but I did that 3 months ago, I'm still waiting for it. So, I don't know why they're taking so long, but maybe they don't like a counselor or something, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
we passed a
But, so
bylaw.
I think at the very least, we should flag it, that we're doing this, and bring them in here to consider it type of thing. Even if it fails, at least we've done the first step to say, yes, it was on our radar, and for these reasons, we have to drop it off.
Yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Spoulos, and I am not in favor of hiring a consultant and spending that kind of money. I am in favor of lobbying the gas company and expressing our opinion, and like you mentioned, have them in as a delegate, not in, I don't know when, but we're very busy for the next little while, but at some point have them in and, and like you said, see what their ask is and what their requirements are.
Exactly.
And so
And
we
then
know.
we can move from there. In other
We
words,
can move
take the
from there.
first step.
As for spending money, I'm very hesitant on it because we do not have the control, and their business model is going to dictate where they go. Councillor Bowman?
Yeah, just, since we're establishing goals and objectives for this term, might I recommend the goal might be here that during this term of council, this municipality hold a natural gas information open house or public meeting at the community center where we have someone who can answer those questions. We can invite the public to come, have a wee presentation about where the gas is, what they need to expand it, and then we've done our bit to educate people and ourselves as to what's possible. And that's a goal that we'd have that sometime during this term and leave it to staff to establish.
I hear what you're saying, Councilwoman. That's a good idea. However, I think we should hear from the gas company first. They may say, forget it, we're not interested. Or they may say, yeah, we're interested if we get this uptake. Then we can then have the public
Okay.
meeting and saying, here's all the stuff. And my biggest concern is, as Councilor Roth mentioned, is people have to get a full understanding of the cost involved. And to throw saying we're going to bring natural gas in, but they got to understand, they got to bring the line up to the property. They may have to get a new furnace. They may have to do a lot of conversion. So all that has to be brought out to the public at this meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, and
The goal
my
is-
question to you is, where would we get all this information from? Would you think the natural gas people do it?
Well, this is, we're talking goals. We're not
Okay,
talking.
all right, fair enough.
So
I hear ya.
I'm hearing that the goal is that we make people aware.
Okay,
If that's
fair
our
enough.
goal, we'll leave it to staff to establish how we get to that goal. And if it means bringing some of the gas companies delegation as a first step, but leaves us 3.5 years to work towards a goal of having a public information center regarding expanding natural gas in the township.
If you want to be elected, you want to move a little bit further. Earlier.
He's good. He's good. He's getting back in for sure. Councilor Roth?
I think something we have to be a little careful of here is, I've heard it a couple times, when we're campaigning, we hear these things. Now, we have a lot of people moving from the city,
Yeah.
and they want everything they had in the city. And I think you could ask every household in this township if they wanted natural gas, and a very high percentage would say yes. But it still doesn't make it feasible.
That's right.
And if we had funding available for a gas company to do Ellis Road, I think Ellis Road, I'm thinking of the right area of Ellis Road, it's heavier populated than most roads in this township. And that still wasn't feasible for them with the funding and our tax incentive. I don't want to spend a whole lot of money on this, and I think we're maybe on the right track to educate people. But I don't know if you can really do that either, but I'm not opposed to going that route. But first, like someone said, is have the gas company come here because they may just tell us that it isn't feasible.
So I think we're in consensus that we want to have a delegation of the gas company. I don't know if it'd be Union Gas or who puts the lines in the ground. I'm not sure. Is it Union Gas? And then from that delegation, we would go forward with a PIM. And Councilor Ballmer said we had 3.5 years. I mean, I would like to see it in the first half of this 3.5 years. If
I've noted 2020 to 2021.
Yes.
that works.
Well, and if we get the gas company here, we'll know what our next step is.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
So I think nods of the heads that we're in agreement with that. Okay, Councilor Palmer?
I'm just thinking, as I said, we're talking goals.
Yep.
So to me, the goal is having that public information meeting on
Or
gas.
could be explore the feasibility of
Yes.
bringing gas service to
Yeah.
residents.
There may be 2 or 3 steps to get there, but
Yeah.
the goal, as we're goal setting, is the other.
Yeah. The goal would be to educate ourselves
And the
as
public.
well as the public as to what's involved and what the cost is.
Exactly.
But MCO, is that what you have written down? Excellent. Okay, so we heard from Councilor Goyda and Councilor Spoulos on some additions to our goals and objectives. Councilor Roth, do you have any additions?
I don't have any additions. I have one I'd like to see removed.
Well, we have 3 additions here, and through the direction of Madame CEO, hopefully we can go through and find 3 removals, so we'll discuss that after I ask Councilor Ballmer if he has any additions.
Yeah, fortunately, I do have some removals, but I have a few small additions. One would be, I'd like to, when we passed our new zoning bylaw, and it's still under appeal, I recognize that, but during the process of generating that bylaw, I think we all acknowledge that within a year or two of it being adopted, there would be a requirement for a housekeeping amendment. So one of the goals I would have for that housekeeping amendment is that it be reviewed to determine if co-housing would be supported by the current wording of the housing, of the bylaw.
If what, sorry?
Co-housing, to ensure that co-housing is a permitted use, if we could address that through the first housekeeping amendment of the zoning bylaw.
What do you mean by co-housing?
Well, co-housing is, it comes in various forms, so it can be, in some ways, it's structured as a condominium, so you could have some co-housing projects are structured like a condominium where the common, say a kitchen is a common element, or a community center or a pool is a common element, and they have private units, but they have shared communal living space. So they may have, it's like a bachelor size private accommodation space, and they share living room, kitchen, and so it's, instead of, we typically think of a condominium has fully independent dwelling units, this is sort of a hybrid, where people can have a smaller private space and a larger communal space. It could also take place where you could have a large house where they have three, almost like a triplex, where they have three private smaller apartments with a shared kitchen and shared living room. And there's a project in Guelph going right now, there's one in Rockwood, there's several of them in BC. It's a way to provide some more affordable housing and to allow seniors to stay possibly with their family, but in a private dwelling. We already have the secondary apartment units. We already allow the secondary dwelling units. This would just allow for some of the secondary dwelling units not to have complete kitchens. Perhaps they might have less than a complete kitchen, so if somebody makes their breakfast in their private space, but in the communal space, they all dine together. So it's not a form of housing that's significantly different from what we already have, but I want to make sure there's nothing in the bylaw that would prohibit the flexibility of how you structure the living arrangements.
The MCO would like
Yeah, I'm going to, I would think that it does not permit currently as it stands. And I would suggest that, that we ask county planning staff, which is our planning staff, just to determine whether, in their view, whether it is something that falls under our current bylaw, which I don't believe it is. I think that they would say that it would require a site-specific amendment. And I would suggest that we ask them if they think it would be a better approach just to bring that in on its own, rather than tie something like that up with housekeeping amendment, which is generally meant to clean up, I'm going to say minor errors that were found or
Okay.
not contemplated. But certainly if you want to put it on the list,
Yeah, I'd like
I
it
would
for
suggest
this
that it
term.
wouldn't be tied in with the housekeeping amendment.
I'm just trying to save, in terms of saving time and money, if, during this term, it'd be nice to have it so that our bylaw can address it, since they're doing it in Guelph or Amasa.
So this is, my old zoning was Hamlet residential. I don't know what the actual term it is now, but under the old zoning, I was in Morrison, you're only allowed a duplex per se, two separate units. But under the new bylaw, I believe you're allowed townhomes and triplexes in the urban center. So is this is something I need to know, is it allowed in the urban centers but not allowed in the rural countryside?
I'm
Is
in
that
some
what you're
places.
thinking, like out in?
Well, it could be in the rural countryside too, right? This is to ensure that our housing, that our zoning bylaw allows for the greatest flexibility in housing, where it doesn't have a greater impact on the neighbors. I mean, if you've got a 5,000 square foot house that can accommodate 11 people that are related, what's the difference if those 11 people are not related in terms of? So that's the kind of thing. We're seeing it other places, so I want to make sure we can accommodate it here, that's all.
Councillor Guida?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, Councillor Ballmer, but I'm wondering how it's different if we're allowing accessory apartments as is. And the type of housing you're speaking of would be sort of, I guess, more like a separate bedrooms,
Yes.
and then you'd share the kitchen. And
Yep.
so would the difference just be that it's not a single-family dwelling, that there's multi-families? Or, I mean, I just am trying to understand
Well, the issue.
how it would be different than just building a big house with a door to a section of a house that's,
It isn't significantly different, it's just that people aren't related. So, which often, in some municipalities, creates the challenge for the municipality, is that the definition of a single-family home, it considers everybody as related, whereas in co-housing projects, they're not always related. So
I
you have
gotcha.
people of different ages living in there, and perhaps even a staff person to provide care. So,
yeah, I guess I just don't know enough about that type of housing that I would definitely be open to having the county speak on that for sure.
I'm supportive of what Madam CEO and Councilor Goyette are saying. Let's have the county look at it. Like, you look at our area, our rural residential areas, they're all geared to single-family dwellings. I think we'd get a backlash from our residents if we started putting that sort of thing in areas. I can see it in the urban environment, it makes sense, but in the rural residential areas, I can't see that as being a viable alternative.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. Councillor Roth?
I agree.
I agree. So I guess the goal is going to, MCO, maybe, what do you have written down?
Well,
there
I
for?
wrote down that consider co-housing provisions in the township zoning bylaw, and I would suggest that we would have to look at having the county give us a costing during one of your budgets to what, like in a future year, as to what it would involve for them to prepare and take you through that process.
Yep.
Okay.
Am I okay to put that in 2021?
anytime during this term is perfectly fine with me.
Well, I'll put it this, and then you will see it when it's done, and then
Yep.
approve from there.
Okay, so I think that is all for additions, or
Oh, no, I'm not
Oh, you need
finished.
another one? Oh, sorry. Councillor Bulmer?
We saw with the building department, great success, whatever when Gerald started to use his discretion in applying fines, that certainly helped with how people perceive the building department. And I wondered if it was possible if we could do the same thing in the tax department. I heard from a lot of people who were shocked. They came in a day after taxes were due. Maybe came in on a Monday when they were doing the Friday. They were away. They were in the hospital. They were sick. And immediately they were subject to 30-day fines. Would it be possible for us to look at giving that department some discretion I know the law provides for some discretion there up to 30 days. Would it be possible to provide some discretion at whatever staff feels appropriate in terms of a week, 2 weeks, whatever? If someone has paid for 20, 30 years on time every time, and they're 1 day late, and they get a 30-day fine, they're coming and doing the right thing. It seems like we're punishing them for doing the right thing. And I wondered if we could during this term, have a look at giving some discretion to that department as well.
Madam CEO looks like she wants to make a comment.
Well, Gerald doesn't have discretion as it relates to fines. Gerald has discretion as to when he
Enforcement.
enforces. We have had, taxes are set by bylaw, and taxes are payable by a certain date by bylaw. The only way to change that I'm aware of is by council passing a bylaw to grant someone special discretion. And we have had legal opinions with respect to doing that, which I would suggest that we would have to then revisit that during a closed session to review
Okay.
that legal opinion.
I wasn't aware of that, because they used to practice some discretion, and
Yes.
so that
And
was a
then-
change.
And then what happens is then some people know about some discretion, whether it was legal or not, being applied, and then that's not fair treatment to all residents, because some people may convey that they have reasons for being late, and some people may not. So I would suggest if council were to go down that road, that first that we would have to pull out the opinion as to whether you legally can, and then council could make a decision from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I would support having discretion for paying taxes. I mean, I understand that things happen and sometimes maybe you can't pay it on time, but everyone gets lots of notice with their tax bill. They don't have to wait till the last day to pay it. So I think that's just, as you say, Madam CEO, opening a whole can of worms. And I just don't think it's just an unnecessary hassle for an already, we're already running too thin, I think.
Councillor Spillis?
I agree with the CEO and Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I think this is opening a can of worms that we don't want to open. It's like, the dog used to eat my homework too. So people will always have excuses. They'll always get sick the day before taxes are due. No, this is, I think, just,
Okay. So I think you have your answer there.
I'm committed to bring it to the table.
Yeah, it's great to have the discussions. Do you have any other additions, Councillor Bomer?
No, they're not that high priority.
Okay. All right, so we have added 4 goals and objectives from my tally.
Has everyone been through? Have you?
I just didn't add any.
I don't, well, I have one comment. There was in the schedule, it said there was a review for a certain bylaw, and it was, I think, for next year. I don't want to add it because I've been approached that a community group wants to come and talk to council about it. So I don't think it needs to be a goal or an objective, because if they don't come and voice their
A
opinion,
new type of bylaw?
it's the firearms discharge
Oh, the
bylaw.
discharge of firearms, yes. yes.
So it looks like it's to be reviewed, but I don't want to add it, but I've been approached and they're getting organized, so I feel that I can just leave that as is and,
Because it is in your schedule.
so
What
that's,
year was that one scheduled for?
It's 2021 right now.
that would be the only one, and if they get organized, then we'll hear from them. Okay, so,
Just want to, could you share the concerns they have?
yeah, for sure. There's a bylaw that there's no Sunday gun hunting,
Yep.
if I believe, and they have, concerns about that, working Monday to Friday. When there's a gun season, they lose one day and they can't get out. And, there's agriculture practices that discharge the same amount of noise that would be similar to a gun. You can still hunt with a crossbow, so it's not a matter of, harvesting animals on Sunday. So it seems like it's a prohibitive bylaw that they're not sure why it's there. And anyway, so that's their concern. They want to come, Madam MCO.
Can I just offer
Sure.
just some insight with respect to the discharge of firearms? So currently, the township has a noise bylaw that deals with noise as it relates to the discharge of firearms. However, we do not have a discharge of firearms bylaw where typically a municipality would have such a bylaw that regulates where firearms can be discharged. So the two really go hand in hand. We are absent of having one of the bylaws, and then perhaps what Mayor Sealy is also referring to has to do with the noise as it relates to the discharge of firearms. So that may involve just looking at both bylaws simultaneously, or at least amending the noise bylaw when you bring in a discharge of firearms bylaw. So they kind of go hand in hand. However, we do not have any restricted areas in this township as of right now.
So you're just.
Which has also been a concern that I know. The reason why it came on the list is because it has been a concern that has been expressed by our residents, that there are not restrictions in certain areas, like, for example, in the heart of Aberfoyle or in the heart of Morriston or in Arco, like in those particular areas. Like, typically you would have
Urban
you would have,
boundaries.
yes,
Restricted.
you would have some boundaries around areas that you wouldn't permit it, so.
Question on that. So are you telling me that there is not a restriction on Sunday gun hunting in the township?
Noise.
No, I can answer that.
Okay, Councillor Bomer?
So previously, the Ministry of Natural Resources controlled all that. And then back in mid-2000s, early 2000s, they opened it up to municipalities to decide whether they wanted to allow or disallow Sunday hunting. The council today we chose to disallow Sunday hunting. So it's this township, as you are aware, the MNR divides the province up into sections. So Puslinch Township is one section within a larger section that doesn't allow. We may not allow Sunday hunting. The municipality next to us may. I don't know if they do. So the only restriction is we opted out of Sunday hunting when the ministry approached us back in 2005, 2006, whatever it was.
So
And the opinion of the council today was to preserve, that way all people work Monday to Friday. Lots of people work Monday to Friday, both those that hunt and don't hunt. So each those that hunted and didn't hunt would have access to the public tracks that do allow hunting. So there'd be at least one day on a weekend where you could be sure there'd be no hunting in a tract. So that was the rationale of the day.
As for just a quick question, this is a little off topic, but I don't know if any of you have any experience with a bird banger
Yep.
for agricultural use. Would that be under the noise bylaw?
Anything that creates noise.
That goes from 6 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night?
I'd have to look at the exemptions. We'd have to look
Yeah,
at the noise.
we recently approved a bylaw to allow the
Yeah, over at Mini Lakes.
mini lakes to
Exemption.
use a
Yeah.
bird bank.
So the bird banger, and these are friends of mine, so I mean, I have to tread carefully, but theirs is a propane-fired banger that is probably 3 kilometers away, and I hear it all day, and that's what, and then when residents come to me and they're like, ask me about this hunting, I said, well, if you can use a bird banger all day, then to me, there isn't a difference, because it sounds identical.
Well, you need a
So anyways,
Yeah.
bylaw exemption for a bird banger.
So, okay, so anyways, I don't want to put it on the goals and objectives, but I believe, well, and it's not that I'm scared of addressing it, it's just that I think somebody's going to come in, you know, maybe in 2020 or even maybe this year and discuss it with council, and we'll deal with it then. Okay, so I have none, nobody has anything else to add. We have 4 items added. Madame CEO asked that we could potentially remove some, and now, when you say remove them, the completed ones, they don't count.
No,
Oh, gee.
So we can't just remove 4 completed ones.
I'm afraid not.
So I'll open it up, I'll just go from right to left. Councillor Roth, if you have anything you'd like to remove?
Yeah, I'd like to see the mobile food services licensing removed. I don't think it's a problem in the township, and if it becomes a problem, we can always reintroduce it, but I don't think we have food service vehicles lining our streets and causing any problem. I'd like to see that one removed.
Do you have any comments on that, Madame CEO, from our recent?
Well, I can let you know that I would have to concur that I don't see it as an issue. We do have a policy that applies to when someone wants to have a mobile food service vehicle on township lands, for example, at the community center. So if someone wanted to have a mobile food services vehicle during an event at the PCC lands, they do have to meet certain criteria in terms of ensuring that they've got their TSSA certification, where it's going to be located, and insurance, and that's all just for safety purposes. So I'm happy to have it removed.
So just to give you guys some background, there has been some complaints about an event that is held on Halloween or Christmas, and then they bring up a mobile food truck and they park it on the road. And that's the only complaint I have received. Does it, and it open, and then it brings to mind the parking bylaw. I didn't see it in here for review. I may have to backtrack a little bit here. I wanna get your council's opinion on the parking bylaw. I've had multiple complaints. We have an individual parking commercial vehicles on the roads, blocking the road. We have this food truck. Do you feel that we need to, and I contacted Madame CEO and I said, you know, can we enforce the no parking on the road? And essentially you said no.
Well, not if there's no parking restrictions. So for example, for those members of council that are newer, we've had the issue with respect to Fox Run as it relates to when there's the Halloween or a Christmas event. And at the time when we've been receiving those complaints, the noise bylaw is being complied with. It is just someone having a display during that specific time. And parking and I guess access in and out of the street has been an issue. So in the past, we've made sure that the OPP are aware. And I did offer the suggestion to the residents on the street that they may wish to ask council to put a no parking restriction on one side or both sides of the street. However, that didn't happen. So the only way for us to enforce parking is that that particular street would have to be designated that there is no parking, and it would have to be signed accordingly.
But also, when I read through the parking bylaw, which was drafted in 1985, there are bullets and points, restricting parking, but you mentioned that it's not enforceable because we don't have signs when you enter the township. Is this something that needs to be on the goals and I could put it up on the floor that, to add it to the goals and objectives if that's the route it has to go. But so to give the current 1985 parking bylaw any teeth, what would we need, Madam CEO?
Oh, okay, would it be okay if I had a look at it and to tell you exactly what needed to be done, like council? But if you want to put it on your list, that can be done.
Well, I'll ask. So I do believe that we maybe need to look at this. We have transport trucks parking in Curry Drive. We have school buses parked on Ox Drive. They're blocking a lane of the road for the entire day. I don't think that, I think there's winter restrictions in the bylaw, but I don't know if they're being followed by these individuals. I think it warrants looking at. So I'm going to send it around the table, and that'll be. Oh,
Can I just add
Sure.
something? I'm just looking at the list, just so that you know. And for some reason, I see it in 2020.
is it on there?
Yeah, it is in 2020. It's a countywide bylaw, but it's showing right now in 2020.
Okay, I'm okay with that then.
Okay.
I'll go back to removals. Sorry, it just came to me when we were talking about Fox Run, and I just want to make sure it was addressed. Okay, so back to removals. We were talking about the mobile food service. Councillor Balmer, did you have a chance to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I certainly delay if not remove. I was on my list of, do we need to get back to it right away? So I have no issue removing it for now.
Okay, Councillor Goyda.
I have no issue removing it either.
I don't have any issue removing it.
Okay, so that one's gone. There's one for you. Councillor Roth, do you have any others?
I'll let it go around first.
Sure.
I picked one, so now everybody else can pick one.
Councillor Balmer?
Well, I'll start with deferral or setting back. I thought site alteration was on the list for 2019, but I think we might learn something through the process that we're going through with the site on Highway 6, and perhaps we can defer this one until we get through that process. I don't know if that makes sense, Madam CEO.
Oh, it's a good point. The only thing I caution there is that we're finding it extremely challenging, and I think it perhaps is acting as a deterrent for people to actually go through the process, given our current limit on the amount of fill that we're permitting to be brought in.
I don't mind, there's lots to improve about it, but I didn't want to burden you.
I appreciate that. It's just that I know in speaking with Gerald, it's making things extremely difficult in terms of having the limits that we've currently imposed, so that people, like, if, first of all, there's the challenge as it relates to resourcing and enforcement, and we're working on that in terms of when someone's illegally bringing in fill. However, if someone is then illegally bringing in fill, then there's the challenge of if they want to bring in more than what we currently permit or they already have, that our hands are pretty much tied, and it's not what I would call encouraging someone to go through the process.
Okay.
Yes, so,
Understood.
yeah.
So you're saying that you want it to stay on there?
I
you want
think,
it to be
the township needs to address it.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Bowman.
Done? I've got more later.
No, I'm just wondering, is that because, Madam CEO, because it's too restrictive? Is that the problem? And
It's
so
too
people are
restrictive
just
in the
doing it
limits,
anyway?
In terms of the limits,
Put a cap on it a few years
yes.
And so we need to look at it in order to potentially increase that limit, to make it
Put it
more?
back to what it was.
Okay.
Or, well,
Or,
and improve it
anyways,
overall.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll let
Something.
Councillor Spoulos talk of it, and
In terms of stuff to take off, I really struggling.
no, sorry, we're just
Oh, sorry.
just discussing
alteration.
Councillor Balmer's site alteration. If
Yeah, my
want
concern is
defer.
having contaminated material brought on site. And to me, whether it's one truckload or 100 truckloads, if it's contaminated, that's a problem for us.
so, I think the consensus is to leave it on, and I don't know if we necessarily want a township where we're accepting all this fill. With talking with the building department, it seems that there's a lot of issues with it, and it's hard to keep people specific to what they're allowed. So I think it should stay on there, and we need clarification whether we reduce the limit. And I don't know why we need to have that much site alteration, but that's discussions we will have. So I think that one will stay. Counselor Bowman, do you have any
Yeah, I
other?
wasn't proposing taking it off, just educating
Deferring
ourselves
it.
through the finale process.
Okay.
The one I think we could remove is, several years ago, I suggested that I think it was the establishing sort of a tax stabilization fund from the aggregate levy. But with the asset management plan coming, I think we need, I think we can let that one go. We're gonna need that. The initial proposal was that the aggregate levy fluctuates up and down every year, and I proposed that we just only take a certain amount every year for roads and automatically put anything over that amount aside in reserves to create a stabilization fund. But I think it's time to take that off, especially with the aggregate levy now doubling. And the net effect is essentially zero, so I'd be willing to take that off.
Counselor Goyda, do you have comments on that?
No, I'm okay with that. I don't know that it necessarily changes time commitments.
I would agree with what
Okay.
Mr. Bulmer is saying with the introduction of asset management and
Yeah.
the fact that we're going to set,
Yeah,
say it
okay.
is redundant.
Yeah.
Will that count as one removed for you for your workload, or is that?
Not really.
Not really, that didn't involve,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the asset management kind of.
I should've
took
just-
its
I shouldn't have
place.
said anything,
Yeah,
right?
you,
Could've
no, I
slipped that
appreciate
one.
you saying something.
Well, the staff.
Geez, now I don't feel
extremely
good.
busy, so we can remove that, but I think we'll leave it on the list for now. See how if we can come up with 4 others that will reduce a little.
Well, can't it come off anyway?
Well, it is coming off.
Okay.
It is coming off, but I'm
You-
counting ones that
If
will.
it's a credit,
Yeah,
Oh, I
like if
see.
it's a
Doesn't
credit
count
or
as
not.
credit.
Okay, so we're in agreement. Counselor Roth, did you want to comment on that on the aggregate?
Yeah, on the aggregate?
Well, the one that Matthew Ballmer just discussed. I
Yeah.
don't think I gave you a
I'm
chance.
fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody had a chance, okay. Counselor Ballmer, do you have any other?
The community forum one that's on there, we haven't had one in a while. We did try them. I think there was diminishing attendance. It's still on the list there, though, community forums.
What was the history on that? Do we have any, that's kind of,
I know of it. I know that it was introduced during the 2010 term of council. I think it was introduced right in 2011, I believe, and I think some community, Councillor
I would
Roth
speak
is,
to that.
you
Yeah.
wanna, okay. All I'll mention right now is right now it's there, but all I'm doing is indicating the fact that we hold public information meetings or public meetings on
Oh.
anything that is of significance, and really, we do that
do that anyway.
We do that anyway. So I'll step back and let Councillor Roth.
Well, we tried it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was a good thing.
And all as it is a bitching session. That's all it is. And it was just taking personal attacks on certain councillors. And it was just simply a waste of time. There was nothing productive about it. And people got upset when they thought if they spoke at that meeting, that it was just going to automatically be changed. It was
Yeah.
a circus. And the word community forum, I think, should be removed, and we do have ongoing public information meetings, and I think that's plenty.
okay. Any comments?
Yeah, no, I have no comments on it.
Worth trying, though.
I'm all for having specific meetings for specific issues, not a general session like that. To me, they're not productive. If you have something that is public information center for a particular item, that's where you get the best bang for your dollar.
Okay, so we can just remove the wording community forum and just stick with the public information. Again, I don't know if that counts as a credit, but we will.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's housekeeping. No, it's appropriate to bring it up. It's just, just trying to manage the workload on staff. Any other removals, Councillor Bulmer?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Goyda?
Well, I was going to say the mobile food service, and I also was going to say sorry, I'm trying to find my spot on my page here, I'm sorry. I was going to say the mobile food service, and I also was going to say site alteration. But one thing that we haven't actually talked about yet, which isn't a removal, it's possibly an addition, is the dog kennel licensing and possibly moving that up. We didn't really discuss that.
What is it scheduled for? I'm just trying to find it.
2021.
2021, but there had been discussions about possibly moving that forward to 2019, which is then now adding possibly a fifth if that's what we want to do. But
Can you give some
I myself wasn't actually part of those discussions,
I
but
can probably help
yeah.
out there, and other members of council. Members of council may recall that we had the application for a kennel on, by Fuhr. I can't remember where the property is. I know it's that way. Oh, over there. Okay, and what their planner did indicate, because for a kennel to operate in the township, you have to get site-specific zoning bylaw amendment. So the township passed that site-specific zoning bylaw amendment, which has certain criteria. However, the kennel licensing bylaw imposes additional criteria that isn't always, or sometimes, in this particular case, does conflict with what was approved. So when they come in to apply for their kennel license, they wouldn't necessarily comply with the kennel licensing bylaw to allow us to facilitate issuing their kennel license. So as a result of the amendment being passed, their planner did write to this particular council and asked that we look at amending the bylaw so that they would be able to obtain their license. And I do agree with what they're saying, is because we consider certain things when, from a setback point of view, when they get their site-specific zoning bylaw amendment, we don't necessarily need those certain different or setbacks outlined in our kennel licensing bylaw. So it does need to be looked at.
Does it need to be looked at
Well, I think from their perspective, it should be looked at
now?
sooner rather than later.
Okay, well, Councillor Spoulos, do you have a comment on that?
On the kennels, yeah, we went through the process, and it was a very, there were a lot of discussions on it, let's put it this way. And I certainly would agree that we should have it done sooner than later.
Councillor Roth?
Yeah, I think we should try and move that one into 2019 and move one or two others out of 2019, perhaps. But I think that one is one that we should be looking at sooner.
Okay, Councillor Bomer?
Yeah, I agree. This is the sort of the final step of bringing our kennel regulations up to snuff, because there was a time when they didn't require site-specific zoning, and they used this license to achieve those same things. So now that we have the site-specific zoning criteria, and we don't need to duplicate it. So I think if Madam CEO can recommend something for moving back.
I can recommend, well,
What about telecommunications policy? Can we move that?
that's being done by the county though, so it doesn't,
Also
That one
doesn't
will be
count
coming
then?
right out,
pardon me?
that'll be coming right out.
Telecommunications policy, well, through the budget process, we've retained the county to do that, so I've already set up like when that's
Okay.
gonna happen this year. So like,
Doesn't help staffing.
it doesn't have to help the staff physically in this building. So procedural bylaw probably is one, even though I know it's in dire need of updating.
What about the property standards bylaw? I know it's kind of in the works already, but,
It's already drafted.
okay, so it doesn't really save anything.
Well, it saves going to a public meeting this year.
But if I could on that one, it also addresses the province.
Yeah, the residential.
There's a regulation that we are now required to enforce residential tenancy.
Here, which one was that?
Property standards.
I mean, it's looking tough to find stuff to reduce your,
What is the security and grading deposits? What's that about?
Well, that's ongoing, Councillor Sepoulis. That has to do with the audit recommendations that the township perhaps needs to improve upon how long they're retaining securities for and grading deposits as a result of development, because to keep on top of, to make sure that, the conditions of the agreements are fulfilled, and then subsequently the securities are released. That's
I thought it was maybe dealing with the amounts. Okay.
No.
so we're finding it difficult to find some removals.
Okay, the computer use policy, what is that about?
Well, you may remember when we had the insurer in and made the presentation when council asked for more information with respect to cyber risk. We were able to secure getting someone to insure us for that purpose without having those specific policies in place. However, we weren't able to get insured through Cowan, who provides all our other insurance coverage, because they require that you have certain policies in place as it relates to computer use. So it can stem from anything like staff or council inserting USB keys, all kinds of personal use of computers, all kinds of stuff. Like there's quite a range.
Probably
of-
fairly elaborate.
It is. It's necessary, but everything here is necessary. It's just a matter of prioritizing it.
On that, no, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Councillor Guida.
I was just going to say, on that note, I don't disagree that we need it. But is it something that could be pushed out a year? I mean, can we get coverage? Can we get coverage
We did
for the
get
next year? I mean, for the next year, if we don't have it, and push it back until a time when we may or may have more time, and then switch our insurance back to Cowan at that point in time. Is there a financial
No.
implication?
No, it's a risk.
But it's the
I would
same
take
risk
it
we've
from a
had
risk.
for the last 4
Yeah,
years. So
it's the same, yes, it's the same risk we've had. It's just, it would be best for the organization to have something in place to better protect itself from any type of attacks, cyber attacks. So certainly that can be moved out. It's, as we move things out, you kind of probably want to maybe look at shifting, but for the purpose of this meeting, I would just suggest that you move perhaps these items out a year, and then when we review things in the future, you can decide what you want to move out then, or we will be quite some time.
can we flip the kennels with that?
I would suggest it would have to be like, because I know it's coming to this side, that side of the office to do. So I would suggest that I need the computer use policies and the procedural bylaw shifted out a year.
Okay, let's discuss, is that what you want to discuss, Councillor Bulmer, or did you have some?
Yeah, I had a question about the computer use policy. We wouldn't be the first one that's writing one, so.
No.
You don't consider it to be, is it onerous to find someone who has one that we could?
I want to make a comment on that. So when I had some training with HR at the county, they have offered all of their policies that they've written, harassment, you know, they will provide them to the township, and Madame CEO,
Yeah, I
you're
utilize
probably already
them.
aware of that.
Yep.
Is there an opportunity there to reduce our workload
Yep.
using the county policies?
Absolutely. However, we just can't adopt the template because of the fact that they have different circumstances. They have IT, they have human resource staff. And then what I find, just in terms of even if you go back and you look at our health and safety audit, it's I'm going to say the easier part is putting the policy, like developing the policy and passing it. The hard part, the difficult part where we have to make better efforts is making sure that staff is aware of what the policy says so that we're actually following it.
Training.
And training, yeah.
Okay, so not to get sidetracked, that I just did that to you guys, but, so we're looking at, refresh my memory, so the procedural bylaw
And computer
pol-
use.
Bringing it into 2019,
Moving it out a year.
moving it out to 2020.
Yeah, right now, which will make 2020 heavy, but I'm suggesting that you look at that in the future, just future years,
So let's
not
discuss
today.
that. I'll get to Councillor Roth once he comes back. So Councillor Bulmer, are you?
Yeah.
in favor? Okay. Councillor Guida?
I just noticed that the deputy clerk was looking to say something, and I know the procedural bylaw impacts you, that you're okay. Okay, then I'm okay with it.
Councillor
I'm fine.
I'm fine as well. So there's two moved out. This logo use policy, we're going to be dealing with one of them this evening. By moving that out to 2020, would that help at all? And we could just deal with it on a per case issue until 2020? Is that a possibility?
I have a concern without a policy in dealing on a per case basis.
Which one is it? We're
Just
just
the
Logo use.
policy.
Logo use.
Oh, the logo use, yeah. Well, now that we've always had one, I guess.
Yes, we've always had logo or crest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Policy?
But never had a
No,
policy.
Never a policy. We just had the crest that people could ask to use.
Okay, is there one under, do we have one in being produced, a policy yet?
I'm suggesting that I'm suggesting it's on the list due to the fact that we're going through the process of promoting our new logo and transitioning to our new logo. And I don't think it's wise to just have, I think it's appropriate to have criteria
Yeah.
that is considered when permitting the use of the township's logo, because there are a lot of factors to consider when you do that. So reviewing one in isolation, I wouldn't recommend it, and I would recommend that we need the logo use policy.
The other point is we haven't put logos on our vehicles yet either. So it would look good having somebody else if we haven't done ours yet.
Okay. All right, well,
It's not complicated to do. Lots of organizations have those too. So it shouldn't be too hard to get.
do you consider us having 3 credits to you?
I consider, 1, 2,
2?
2, and we're at 5 the other way.
So 3 additional. I'm open to suggestions. Fleet management policy, yeah, so Councilor Swope.
Yeah, I was looking at the ones that we've added. Do you see it as being owners calling in the gas company to see where you're
Oh.
going?
That's a good point.
You know, like, to me, it's an easy
the
one.
first 3.
Same with the roads, well, we've already started on implementing it. Like, it's not as if we're creating new work. The only one I could see is the follow-up to the gas company might pose additional labor. Likewise, the follow-up to internet might cause additional labor.
Well,
Right
I
now-
put the gas company in 2020 and 2021. didn't I?
Yeah, so I think actually, it's a good catch. I think we're in pretty good shape. The kennel and the zoning, they moved to 2020, so, yeah, I think, MCO, what's your comment?
I think that you're going to see that a lot, you're going to have too much now in the following years, but that's something that you can
We
deal with.
reprioritize.
And I'm going to stress, though, even with what we're left with, isn't necessarily achievable.
I understand with the
Like,
staff.
I give you that,
Well, you manage it, and we'll see how it goes.
well,
We're trying. Councilor Rowe?
Yeah, I mean, this is, you look at this whole thing, it's overwhelming, but when you look at what has been accomplished, I think it's also overwhelming. So we maybe have bit off more than we can chew for this year, but we will, if we don't reach it all, we still have accomplished a lot. So I think I would rather do it this way than cut it back, that we'd be real comfortable with it, as long as we don't stress
well,
staff out too
I
much.
see, that's, well,
But I think staff has to understand we're not giving the strap.
We're
if you
not
don't get
expecting it
done.
all to be completed,
Okay.
but.
It reminds me of a saying my kids got when they were swimming, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you'll still hit the stars.
I like that.
Can I ask, what is the gravel company's rehabilitation?
I don't have an answer for that. I mean, they have obligations for site remediation, but.
I know, but why do we have it on our goals and objectives? We really don't have any say over it anyway. It's an M&R responsibility.
can I remove it?
There was an
You can, as
issue.
far as I'm concerned.
Councilor Ballmer?
There was, I can imagine why it was put on there. People had concerns, and that probably after an election, to continue to focus on aggregate rehabilitation.
Yeah, and I can
That's a
remember
Tatmos
one
thing.
particular gravel pit that we got a letter from the MNR that it was an exceptional rehabilitation, and it looked like the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
It was anything but exceptional. But
Yeah.
maybe that's when it got put on, but at the same time, we couldn't do anything about it anyway, so I don't know why it's on there.
I would suggest we leave it on for 2020 or 2021 when Mill Creek is rehabilitated. Because
Think it'll be rehabilitated?
well, they said they're gonna have that gravel pit dug out in 2 years' time,
Yeah, yeah.
and they promised all this extra rehabilitation, so we'll see.
Yeah, but we can't do anything about it anyway.
No, but at least it's on our radar to say that we can talk to the MNR and say, look, they promised all this, they haven't done it.
And it doesn't take a lot of staff time, right?
Well, I'm not out monitoring that, I can tell you that. This is on a council goal and initiative. Like, I'm not doing that.
And, well, it's.
I don't think it should be on this particular.
All right, well, let's discuss it. So, Councillor Balmer, would you like, are you in support of removing it, or any comments on Councillor Rose?
It does nothing to what is there or not there. It's we could roll this under TAPMO or under our regular review of applications, so it's,
What's your decision?
I'm neither here nor there. If it's there, I'm happy. If it's gone, I'm happy, you know.
Can it be under the supportive initiatives?
Sure.
For TAPMO? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's one of TAPMO's initiatives
Yeah.
dealing with the rehabilitation, so it's up to council, but
So now we're going to just move it under the TAPMO support initiatives? Is that what we're proposing? So it'll still be on there, but not in the same
well,
spot?
I won't itemize it. It's just supportive TAPMO initiatives.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. We're in agreement. Are you okay with that, Councillor Roth?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There is one on here, if I may, that I spoke to earlier, had to do with, oh, I lost it now. Planning evaluation.
Yeah.
I still don't know what that is.
Whereabouts are you?
Where do you see it?
Well, that's a good question. It's on the other table.
Thanks.
Because I don't think I put it on the list because I didn't know what it was.
Like the big
But it was
list?
under the goals and objectives, and it's under, just find it. It's the last page of Schedule A. And it's the second one down. You can see it's there, but it's been sitting there.
Planning.
Planning
got it right
evaluation
there.
process. Is that what,
Yeah.
well, if we don't know what it means, we might as well take it.
I'm good. Anybody? Councillor Balmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So that's a big credit there. yeah.
No, that's not a credit when I don't know what it is.
Anything to make Madam CEO happy. She's very particular about things.
I think it should be a 2 for 1.
Yeah, what this
The other
equates
way
to two. No,
around.
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Let me just see.
Just reading through some of these, trying to. I mean, there's a lot of these on here that, you know, even the TAPMO, I've been talking to the chair, and I asked for an update on their position on the aggregate, and she just said for me to send her an email, so I know this maybe, it doesn't involve staff, and it's more, you know, me contacting her, so I mean, I guess it should stay on there, but I don't think it's a tremendous workload for staff, is that fair to say?
Only when our mayor is the chair of TAPMO, it's a workload for staff.
Yeah,
Right, so that's not gonna happen for, I don't know, when does it come up? Every year, or is it every 2 years?
every year.
Every year.
Has TAPMO been invited to participate in the secret aggregate workshop, or the aggregate, workshop, I guess the province is holding to
I don't have
about,
an answer for that, I'll ask.
maybe you can find out.
Does council feel the need for relationships with abutting municipalities to stay on? Like,
We already have those. Oh.
I think it-
Do you remember what that's from, Ken?
I think it had more just to make sure that we were building relationships with our abutting, I see that we do, but
Yeah, sure we do.
I don't think it has to be on here.
I assume you meet with the other CEOs.
Oh,
You
yeah.
call them up all the time, yeah,
Well,
sure.
we run into the mayors and
Yeah.
councilors
Yeah.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
GRCA, I ran into some abutting members, so.
so I can take, like, it's nicer if the list is a little cleaner.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Something we're
with-
doing anyway. It doesn't necessarily need to be
Yeah.
listed that it's something that's being done.
What was the one I just read that was near the bottom of that page? It was who does what or what does where, and
Well, that's completed already, I think.
I didn't see the C. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So we'll see these completeds removed.
Yep, I'll remove the completeds. I will update your list and then bring it back.
Okay.
Do you need me, like, because we've established it as as our process with respect to the conservation authorities coming annually. Do you need me to keep this on a list for you? It's up to you, like,
Councilor Rowe, I'll start with Councilor Rowe. Do you need it on the list,
I don't know.
Councilor Balmer?
Yeah, I don't, and then I must admit, there's, when I see how much, I think it's Halton, or even Hamilton, Halton, I think what's our total levy, $1,250 or something, and I think they spend more money than that coming here to give us the presentation.
I'll keep them coming annually. I just
Yeah.
don't need you to have it on.
I just feel bad for them when our contribution is so tiny and they send 2 or 3 staff.
They
But
have
that's
more
their
money
decision.
than us, Counselor Bulmer.
Yes, I noticed that. I noticed that.
I guess it's nice to be kept in the loop, but I agree. I mean, it's kind of a formality, but, you know, we can keep track of how much money they're spending on the Emerald Ash Borer.
Counselor Palmer, do you think it's a worthwhile exercise having them come here to speak to us? Is that what you're getting at, that maybe we don't need to be doing that anymore?
Well, it's nice to have the one from the Grand River Conservation Authority because we contribute a fair lot of funds to that. We have representation on each of them that, you know, we can question if we have a question. I don't have an issue with them coming. It just feels,
It does,
Council meeting
it does
longer.
make your council meeting longer. If
It
you just
does.
want us to reduce it to the GRCA, we're happy
I
to
wonder
do
if there's
so.
something we could do if we had specific issues about
yeah.
something.
I think it was,
Is this the appropriate place to discuss whether?
yes.
Okay. I'm okay with not, you know, reducing council meeting length and agenda length in particular, reading through the entire Halton Conservation presentation. And like Councillor Balmer said, it's $1,250. Not that it's, you know, every dollar matters, but, you know, we're a pretty small piece of the pie. So I'm okay with, you know, going on a, you know, an issue basis if we have something concerns, inviting them, but, well, maybe Councillor.
I think it's worthwhile still getting their reports and
Yes.
including them as part of our agenda so that we can still read through them and
yes.
be aware of what's going on. But I don't necessarily know, I mean, we can all read and we can all gather the information we need from those reports. And if we don't, we can always ask the questions. But I don't know that we're necessarily gaining anything that we wouldn't have otherwise by having them come here and speak, other than just using up time.
All right, so maybe stop having the invite for the delegation and just have the reports.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I think that's good, because if they sent us what they're going to say at the delegation, we read it. If we have any questions, staff can follow up on it. It's time saving for them and us.
Yep.
Do you need a motion for that
No.
one? Or?
No, I'll just update.
It was a good exercise, though, to help us understand it all. It's an awful lot of work.
That same vein, does that apply to any other conservation authorities? I know the Grand River's pretty big, but how about the
Hamilton?
Hamilton? How much do we pay them?
I'd have to get Mary.
Oh, gee,
We're roughly I think we're 2% of theirs,
it's not that much. is it?
No, no.
but we have a representation there, too.
So I don't know, that's another one we can eliminate.
Especially with retired Councillor Fielding as a representative on that board. I mean, there's always an avenue there for input here. I'd like to know the numbers, though, that we could.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, we'll get the report. The budget's nice to get in the annual report.
Or you're just saying you want to know what we pay them before we cancel, bring them in?
Yeah.
I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be, can we just ask Mary real
Yep.
quick? Thank you.
So while I have a lull in the meeting, just one of the things that I see, we're talking about something here in terms of how we could perhaps better utilize both council and staff's time. And I was wondering, and it's a terrible thing to say, but I was wondering if in terms of terrible, I would need to take some more of your time. But I would like the opportunity, if possible, to perhaps discuss some of the ideas of where we could perhaps eliminate doing certain things if we're not feeling that they have a value to us anymore, or that could help reduce the work involved in doing something. And I'm going to throw a few things out. Like, I know I've had a few questions just with respect to providing the check register detail and certain payroll information to council, and you do get your summary report. So things like that, and things like, I know Mayor Sealy brought it up earlier. He asked me just with respect to no longer taking direction at a council meeting, we should be doing it by resolution, just for the purposes of tracking that as staff change, you're able to track resolutions and know what council has requested staff to do versus having direction by a particular member of council. It's appropriate that all of council vote on it, and then that's what staff is carrying out. So I was just wondering if we could have some discussion on some of those things at a meeting that I could set up with you, just to see what your thoughts are, and if you have any ideas of things that you feel are just weighing us down, that we could eliminate those as well. And would council be open to that?
Yep, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Hi, Mary. And there's Mary.
Hello.
One question, I promise.
Yes. 29,254.
So 30,000, or, right?
That's for
Hamilton.
Hamilton Conservation.
How much was it?
30,000.
30,000,
Rounded up.
okay.
Almost 1%.
Okay, so that's worth it bringing them in, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, so, okay.
Okay.
I think that's it. Councilor Roth?
So does that mean we want them to come to council with the delegation, or just send us?
Hamilton.
Well, so we'll discuss that, I guess it would be appropriate, but Councilor Spillis and myself feel that at close to 1% tax levy, that it still warrants them coming, but let's just discuss that. So Councilor Roth?
Well, I think what might be a better procedure is that they send us that information. And then if we have any questions and want them to come as a delegation, because we may not have any concerns, I don't know if it would be necessary. And while I'm on that, like, we get a lot of stuff in our council package that, to me,
Yes.
isn't something I need to read. But if the staff wanted to send it out, and if any counselor is interested in reading it, they can get that information. But some of the stuff, to me, is just a waste of my time.
Yeah, so that I think will be addressed at this meeting that
That's
the
what I would like
MCO
to
is
address.
wanting to organize. Is we're going to try to streamline some of the things that are on the agenda, and, but, so back to focus on whether Hamilton comes.
Well, that would be my suggestion.
The suggestion now is that we read through what is presented to us, and then if we have concerns, ask them as a delegate to, and Councilor Ballmer, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if we have a concern, we're doing it kind of backwards by having them in after the budget's passed. I think if we want to have any input into the process, the ideal thing is we ask them to send a draft budget to us, and then we can send direction to our representative on that board. Our comments can be directed to them so they can take action at that meeting, taking into our comments in consideration. But having them come in and give a presentation after the budget's passed,
Which is what they're doing now.
That's what they're doing now.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd rather just receive, more to what Councillor Roth is talking about, from each of them, receive something up before the final budget is passed for us to review. If we have any questions or comments, we can share those to our representative to take to the meeting.
This sounds to me like it's turning into a new goals and objective for.
Well, it's just,
No, and that's not, and I'm not saying it's in a negative aspect, I'm just seeing that it's evolving into, you know, let's have a goal and objective of having the, like, commenting to the, or asking for the pre-budget and commenting on it versus the delegate. Is this a fair assumption?
yeah,
And,
otherwise, what's the point, other than just information after the fact?
so do we need it listed on there, Madam CEO?
Well, that's a change, so I don't know how, like, that's a change in terms of asking the authorities to respectively come in before, when they're in their draft budget approval process, because
Not
right now
necessarily
they're
come
kind
in,
not
of,
just,
coming
just
in.
provide it, just email, or submit the
Yeah,
budget.
I
Did they
don't-
do that?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
No, I don't, but
Probably not.
otherwise, just I wouldn't have them come in at all, no matter how much they're charging. If we get the documentation to read, to Councillor Roth's point, we can read it. If we have a question, we can ask, but what's done is done. And we have our own representatives, we can ask what it's about, whether it's Mr. Gilmore, Ms. Fielding, or Mayor White.
It's a bit like the aggregate industry. We don't have a lot of control over it anyways. They just
Right.
basically dictate what we pay, so
Yeah. We need to be aware of it.
we need to be aware of it. I think I'm comfortable with, you know, just receiving the report and submitting questions for, so if we have an issue, then we'd have to deal with it, you know, the following budget year. So you'd always have to maybe just accept the first one, and then if there's an issue, then, be proactive.
But that's what we're doing anyway.
That's what we're doing now, but we're still not having, but still going to not having Hamilton Conservation come as a delegation. Just receive the budget after it's passed, and then so we'll always be a year behind if we flag something as a concern. But, so I think I'll go back to, are we supportive of just having their budget as a part of the agenda and not having them as a delegation? So I think that's what we're still discussing. So Councillor Roth, again.
So are we talking all conservation authorities?
Now, we're just talking specifically about Hamilton. Well, because we already decided on Halton, that we're just going to have their presentation in the agenda, and then we were kind of now thinking Hamilton as well. GRCA, I believe, everybody feels that it's a significant portion that we need to have them here as a delegation. So we were just talking,
Well, definitely in favor of that with Hamilton.
Hamilton, it was just Hamilton we were discussing. GRCA is not on the table for that.
Fine with them as well.
Councillor Moore?
Yeah, it's a small portion of the township.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that.
I'm fine.
Yep, okay, so we'll just receive, so essentially we're receiving Halton Conservation, Hamilton Conservation just as an item on the agenda without delegations, and then status quo for
GRCA.
GRCA.
Sorry, quick question. Would that take effect now this year? I know we've already had.
We've already
So it'd be-
scheduled them
it'd
in.
be,
Okay.
Yep. They've already been scheduled in for this year, so it wouldn't take effect till next year. We've
you
already
can't-
had one.
But you can't cancel?
We could cancel the one. I
one?
forget.
We had
It's either
Halton already.
Hamilton-
It would be
it's
Hamilton.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had Halton.
Yeah, they're scheduled in May, if I remember right.
Yeah.
It's on here.
Well after the budget's already passed.
Yep.
I think,
I would just caution, because I know that some of them, I believe it was Hamilton, they've already made efforts to provide us with a presentation
Yeah.
and everything, so like.
And they will have their heart
Staff
set
work has
on-
gone
yeah.
in to preparing for
Right.
us, so.
and it'll be a good opportunity to tell them, face to face. We can say I will anyways.
Well, they might
Say we
impress
don't
us so much we want them back next.
Maybe.
I'll let Councillor Roth let them know, so I don't take the heat.
I like the idea, Council Boomer's, if we get an indication of their budget, because draft budget, if something goes up, like this 30,000 goes up to 40,000, I'd like to know about it, why is it going up before the budget's passed?
So we can, those are great questions.
Yeah,
We can
so,
ask them when
yeah,
they're here.
I'm going to suggest that, something like that, if it goes up 1 or 2%, what can you do about its cost of living amounts? If it goes way out of whack, I really would like to scrutinize the numbers, understand why.
Yeah, to that point, Mr. Chair, that was particularly important when they were redoing the boundaries and jigging. That was good to have them come because how much we paid to each, remember there was a redistribution between Hamilton and Halton due to changes of how the province interpreted, and also the numbers changed a lot. And it was good to have them come and explain what caused that significant change in our assessments.
Okay, so are we reversing direction on,
No,
No, we're just, I think you made a good point, that when they come here, we'll say, look, in the future, we're thinking about this. Would it
Going
be
this way.
possible to get a preliminary numbers, and if we have concerns, then we can address it.
Yeah.
all right?
Yep.
So I think we're okay with that. Those are good questions. Okay, where are we? Do we have enough off your list? Have we done enough?
There's not enough off of it, but
You want it cleaned.
I have a question on that, so your snow removal, there's an item there on snow removal. What is
that has
that
to do with
about?
snow removal off of sidewalks.
Okay, is
Whether
that
you're
the,
going to look at putting the onus on a resident to remove the snow off the sidewalk.
Well, part of our asset management plan and where's
Well,
the
yes,
director?
there he is.
The budgeting
Minimum
of,
maintenance standards.
yeah, the minimum maintenance standards, the budgeting of 20,000 was to look after all of the sidewalks, not just a select portion, correct?
So it
that-
could come off.
That can come off.
That was originally on there because of the potentially imposing the bylaw to put residents 24 hours. That's what that was on there for. But now that council has provided funding and recognized it under the MMS, then it will be done through the township.
So I'll remove it.
Timing is impeccable.
But that's not in the right year, just so you know.
So I can make a motion
let's
that we
move
move
it to
this.
2019 and move it back.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, okay.
Let's move that up to 2019. Okay, we'll remove that. It's a credit. Anyway, so that you can remove that one. Anyhow,
So I'm okay to, then I'll proceed with, well, I'll probably try and, if you're in here early enough tonight, I'll probably try and get a time where we can talk about some of these things. I think another thing, just in terms of, maybe we should have some discussion about the protocol as it relates to responding to just complaints that come in and how you should direct them to the township. We'll just maybe go over that as well as part of the meeting. And
When are we having this meeting?
I'm going to ask you about that when you come back, because I'm going to look at my calendar
Okay,
and see
okay.
how we've loaded it up, to see when we could have this meeting. Like, I'd rather have this meeting actually sooner rather than later, just because if it can eliminate doing some stuff, that's always a good thing. So I do just have one other item, just as it relates to goals and objectives, that I just want to point out. As council is aware, there's many other things that are being worked on other than what's just highlighted here in your goals and objectives. We do have in our budget this year, and you will recall that we talked about the upgrades to or replacing the township's telephone system, and we talked to council about the fact of whether, with the voice over IP, whether you wanted to have, everyone's nodding their head, so they know what I'm talking about. I do, like, in the details, Mary's very detailed, but I know we didn't have any discussion on it at the time, but I did want to make sure that council understood that when we put this in place, what will happen is there would be an auto attendant that will then direct you to the specific departments, then when you would get a live person. And it was in that information, but I do recall that during the budget, there was no discussion on it.
Oh, that's sad.
also nobody will be answering the phones.
Oh, no, we'll answer the phones. It's just
Like
that
the county.
initially it will say, for taxation, press 1, for
But that's what I mean.
planning 2, and then you'd get the person.
The first
It's the
point of
first-
contact is
The
a
the
computer.
first point of contact is the system.
I mean, it's always nice to get a person initially, but I mean, if you're not used to that already, then I don't know where, everybody's gone that way, so we can discuss it. So Councillor Roth?
Well, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's just the way of the world right now. So, I mean, it does free up staff time if they're not answering the phone for every call. And I have no idea how many calls a day you get, but I would imagine it's substantial.
Well, it helps the split, especially during tax time, and like, to read, so, and when there are development calls, then the ladies over there aren't getting them, they're coming over here directly first.
I think it's a good thing. Councillor Bulmer?
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I like the surprise of who's going to answer the phone. It's like a bit of a lottery every day.
Yeah.
But it'll certainly save them a lot of time. Just my calls alone will free up all sorts of staff time. So I think it's a good thing.
You can just randomly choose different departments. Go ahead.
I know that, it's fine. I'm sure that there's a little bit of, there'll be a bit of a learning curve, but as long as it's not, you call some places and then the list is like so long, you have to wait 5 minutes just to get to the one you want. So as long as it can be
Yeah,
sort of as short as possible.
We fortunately don't have a lot of people to put in a list, so it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Will there be an opportunity to call direct? In other words, if I know, for instance, your number.
Oh, you still can come to me.
Yeah, it'll come to you without going through this,
I believe so, but you know what, I need to get Mary and Michelle.
okay.
Depending on-
Because if
think
I
I
know
need them both.
specifically want to talk to
We
Nina,
have that
I.
currently, so
Yeah,
it
under the
is a
extension.
possibility,
Still
yes.
continues.
Oh, I didn't know
The
that.
extension, and just like the county.
Okay, so if I want to talk to Nina directly and I just dial her number, it's
Yeah.
done. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with
That's so I can dial your extension, then ask
One thing I
Karen
have
from you.
Correct.
Okay.
to say here is if I phone in and I get,
Nina?
I get the
Attendant,
attendant.
automated.
That isn't a person. And I want to speak to you, then it sends me to your phone and then it isn't picked up. I think that's when it becomes frustrating. So as long as we have some kind of a policy in place.
We're gonna
that when
tag team
we
here.
get back to people within a certain time with.
There's usually the
calls
zero
after
out option.
Voicemail, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question, the zero out option, but
Okay, so let's take one question at a time. The first question was, what was it now?
Call direct. In
Yes,
other
you can
words,
still call directly. So Michelle, if I wanted to speak to you, I can still call and dial your extension.
Yes.
Yes, so one done. The next one had to do is if Ken was calling myself and I'm not there, can he zero out? Yes,
So by zeroing out, what am I doing? Explain
we're
that.
giving you no answers.
Does it redirect? Does it redirect or does it go to her voicemail?
It redirects to reception.
So she doesn't answer, it redirects to reception. It doesn't just.
Oh, so then I talk to a
You'll talk
living
to
person?
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just by dialing, you dial 0 and then it goes.
And there obviously will be an option for admin or complaints or something or along those lines.
And it'll strip off the call display so they'll actually answer my calls? Oh. Oh, rats.
When you dial in, you'll either be able to dial the extension or search by name if you need to do that, or else you'll get the options for each of the departments.
Perfect.
Okay,
that's good. I'm happy with that. That's fine.
okay.
Excellent.
Will that include roads? I mean, fire, will that include fire now on the same number? Because right now, roads and fire have different numbers.
Yes, everybody
Wow.
with the same number, different extensions.
Excellent. So you could dial this number and then and go to fire. Wow. Okay.
Exciting times.
And it
Yeah.
won't go to counselors?
Council elected not to do that as part of budget, so.
You'll just go to a busy signal. You can end up.
Forward them all to the mayor.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh my God, we're becoming modern.
Yes, it's inevitable. Okay,
Yes, I think so.
I think we're done. We're good.
I didn't, you can take it from the
Can
floor.
I get a mover for, well, here, I'll read the, need a mover for that report, ADM 2019-012 regarding term of council 2018-2022 goals and objective be received, and the council adopts the term of council 2018-2022 goals and objectives as amended. Can I get a mover? Councilor Spoulos, second. Councilor Goida, all in favor? Yeah, I'll get that. Here, we'll just send them, somebody, just send those down there. Oh.
Coming this way?
Yes, one's coming this way, Matthew. It's the to adjourn.
Thank you. So this one's carried.
I'm coming. I'll go on this side. Oh, yep, okay.
There?
Yep.
No, there's a slot there.
Yeah, there is. I think there's another
Another
one,
one,
but it's
oh,
all
well.
right.
Mayor can figure that out.
So I have moved by Councilor Goida, seconded by Councilor Spoulos, that the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 017-2019 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the Township of Portland at its meeting held on the 20th day of March 2019. All in favor? Carried. And the last one is moved by Councilor Rose, seconded by Councilor Ballmer. The council hereby adjourns at 11:02 p.m. All in favor?
AM.
AM. It says
Yeah,
PM.
don't put
I got scratched.
Amen, AM.
AM, 11:02. All in favor? Carried.
Amen.